Right. Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for being here. Truly, uh, there's a smile in me,
Mhm.
and I know that that same smile is in all of you. And we want to extend that smile and see it in all. That's truly our true nature, which is happiness. And even though we go through all kinds of stuff, like here we have a heat wave, and I know out on the West Coast it's even a bigger heat wave, and there's all kinds of things going on within the oneness of the sonship. There is this smile that's always going on because God's will for me is perfect happiness. And that is our natural state. So, with that as an opening, and I want to welcome everyone here and thank you for being here. Hi, Victoria and Deborah, who just entered. Uh, I was talking to Rosalind, and she has a process, and she said, how about letting me start off with the process? I said, no one does process better than you, Rosalyn. So I'm going to turn the mic on over to my mighty companion, Rosalyn Rourke. Rosalyn, the mic is all yours.
Thank you, my dear. So, just before we start, take into account the moment before you came here, the kind of day you had, the energy you were bringing into this meeting. And you can do that really quickly and put a number on it. A 10 would be in the oneness and that smile that David talked about. And if it was anything less than Dov's 10, give it a number. You were annoyed, or doesn't matter. You were thinking about something unpleasant, or your day didn't go well, or it did go well, it was a 7, 8. Just give it an arbitrary number. And then later on, we'll be able to look back at the number, not necessarily take in the story, but just to notice how little it takes to travel the road from one set of states to another. So today, I would like to invite you to start with your eyes open. And there's one thing that I have learned from science in the last 6 months, and that is that we use our eyes differently than we use our ears. Our ears are just as they were meant to be. They're receiving organs. But we do something different with our eyes, and we stretch them out to the environment. We have an energy where they are not just receiving, but they're grasping, they're directing, they're noticing. Some people use them for hypervigilance. But right now, I invite you to soften your eyes and notice that as you soften them, you can actually see more of your periphery in a relaxed way. And we often look at objects. How does it look? Or the function of the objects. But now let's just look at whatever is in front of us. And I invite you to look off your screen to wherever you are, not necessarily in the Zoom picture. And receive from the room rather than you pointing your eyes out at the room. What if the room was holding you? What if you and the room were one? Let's just take a deep breath and receive the room. And know that the room is receiving us. And let's move out from the room to whatever the building is outside the building. And even if you can't see it, take in that what's outside is holding you, and you are in the space, and there really isn't any particular edge that can be found between the room, what's outside the room, outside the walls, outside the air, where you are. And what if you could even be held by the stars and the galaxies and the ancestors and the mighty masters and the angels? What if you had a direct physical relationship with all that was and all that is to come? And let's come back into the room and come back to the soft focus of your eyes. And now come inside and maybe close your eyes. Come inside your eyes and relax into the space inside your body. And feel that your body, with your eyes closed, might not have the same edges that you thought of with your bones and your skin. It could be more fluid. And with each next breath, you could take in the oneness that you're not seeing, but that you were held in, and that you are holding. And just as there's no difference now between holding and being held, the differences can just melt away. And then there's the silence. And then there's the space between inhaling and exhaling. And the space is part of us. And the us is part of everything. And if you would like to softly open your eyes again, and in your own time, take in the beautiful beings in this room and see them perhaps differently. Over to you, David.
So peaceful and beautiful. I'm guided to ask, does anyone want to comment on that process? Because it's kind of put me into alpha, maybe delta, even to the extent that I said, this is our natural state. Does anyone want to share anything for them on this process?
I just want to say thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you is always appreciated. Thank you. Yeah.
You know, I want to encourage you to do one thing, and that's I would encourage you to speak and stay in that state. We think of this as a state, as a meditation state, and we can live from this place as Dov is suggesting. And one of the ways that we prove that to ourselves is to start speaking when we don't feel we're kind of zoned out and peaceful. And many of us think that if we start talking or writing down a phone number, that we're losing that state, and we need not lose it. And so I do encourage you to speak and stay cognizant of that soft space that your eyes got to experience and your heart got to open.
Okay. Thank you for those kind words, Rosalyn, because that is the truth. We are in that space, and it doesn't really matter if you pick up the mic and talk. You are the space that this piece is. This is our natural state. You know, it says that we are one, and that is exactly what love is. Love is the function of love is one, and this was like a perfect oneness state. No matter what you do, or no matter what you think outside of the oneness is. It's like an isness. Uh, uh, there's nothing to really comment on other than to appreciate, to actually accept the oneness as our natural state. Anyone else want to say anything about it at all?
How does your state now compare to the number you gave before you entered? Do you notice a difference? And if you remember what that issue was that you brought in, just bring this state to that. And nothing was done. You didn't apply any principles with your mind. You didn't have a doing. Nothing happened except you connected to the oneness. And bang, it's different, right? Did anybody have it stay the same or get worse? Never have seen that, but I'm open.
From a 9 to a 10.
Yeah, yeah.
And got down to one quiet little thing is, how is what I'm experiencing now perfect? And the silence and the peace and the quiet just seem to, I don't know, even expand might not even be the right word. Intensify, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do this. You don't even need the process that I did. You just can have the memory of this experience, and that's enough, bingo, to go home again. I think that's part of what we're here to talk about is that road back home when we notice that we're somehow left the oneness. I thought of something today. Who has missed their exit on the highway ever in your life? Have you ever missed, right? Do you keep on going when you're wrong, when you realize you've made a mistake, it's an error? Do you keep on going, or do you turn around?
Turn around.
Well, isn't that a great metaphor? When we notice we've mistakenly gone back to the separate self. And then should we add paragraphs, judging it, and why did you do that? You know better, you got caught up. Why would you keep going with a car on the wrong road, on the mistaken road? Why not just go back to the oneness like that with the memory? It's that easy, isn't it? I mean, you're all advanced students. I'm an advanced student. Dov is an advanced student.
I think the slowing down makes it much easier to turn around, because when I came in here and you asked me for a number, I really wasn't at a 10, even though I was talking about the smile. I saw a 7. This is a 10. This is a 10. And the difference is, you're right, the soft eyes makes a huge difference. Huge difference. Soft eyes is the end of separation. I know. I think it's in Aikido, the martial arts. They talk about soft eyes,
Mm.
where you don't see differences.
I've heard it in meditation. I didn't know we used our eyes functionally different than our ears. I never understood that. I didn't make the connection with the Zen protocols that had soft eyes. It finally, did everybody else know it? Am I the last to realize that we use our eyes in this world very differently to our ears?
Well, we actually use our eyes to communicate. We gesture with them. We answer questions with them.
It's
We
true.
close them. We use, you can't use your ears to communicate, but you use your eyes all the time.
Yes, that's a really good point, Raph. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm thinking of lesson 155, where he says, "Let me step back and let him lead the way." The soft eyes is actually allowing spirit to lead the way, because ego doesn't ever have soft eyes, truly. Ego has to see distinctions, has to see differences, always comparing one with the other. So when you step back and you're literally saying, I do not know the way. If you think you know the way, you're not going to have soft eyes. But
Yeah.
we say, I don't know the way. You step back and allow one who knows the way to lead you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like to think of that knowing as inside of us, and in the oneness, as you speak of him, there is no separation. When we internalize and claim that oneness, then there is no separation from the him. Isn't that right, Dov?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I and the Father are one. I and Spirit are one.
Yes.
When you say God is the strength in which I trust, we're really trusting in our true strength.
Yes.
Yeah. And the funniest thing is, all of the hurts and pains and misery and the things that we don't like really come from our belief that we are weak instead of powerful.
Right.
Literally. I mean, the power is in the mind, and we who identify with the body, and we see other bodies, we think everyone is like us. A body sees another body, but with the soft eyes allows you to let go of the identity with the body. It really does. Thank you for that, Rosalyn.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone else who wants to comment on this at all? Yes, Isabel?
I'm just going to say that for me, it's I feel so free when I go through that process.
Mm.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah.
Yes, something like someone said expansive. I suppose it's similar, but yeah.
Yeah.
Did you want to continue?
No, that's okay.
Okay.
Honey, did you have your hand up?
Honey, your volume.
I didn't realize I had muted it again.
Okay.
Some years ago, I was told I had cataracts and they had to be operated on. That they stop you from seeing properly. But then they said they put lenses in, they take something out, they put something in, and the doctor was all excited. He said, then you won't need your glasses. And I said, but you don't understand. When I wear these glasses, I see people's bodies. But when I take them off, I see with my heart and I can see what they're feeling.
Oh, wow.
And I said, that seems to be far more important to me than, for example, driving at night. but I didn't want to lose my vision completely. So the long story short, I researched a whole lot of natural things. And when I went back, there was a mix up in the records, and I don't go every year, you know, it was like 2 or 3 years. And he says, now he says, you know, you have the beginning of some cataract activity. And he had told me before that the blockage was 6 and 5. He said, oh, that's interesting. What are you measuring? He said 3 and 2. And so I still don't drive at night, but now if I'm in a conversation and all of a sudden I get this feeling that what's not being talked about is more important than what is being talked about, I take off my glasses. Somehow that connects me here.
Wow. What a
And
beautiful.
it's like, wow, you see, there was a reason. I thought at first it was just because I have interesting experiences with both hearing and vision, you know. So I'm really grateful of that. But I'm not going back to that eye doctor.
And we're grateful for that story. Thank you, honey. Thank you. Cindy, can we have the slide with lessons 101 and 102 on it? Yeah, I asked Cindy to run the slide. This is our cover picture at One Minds for ACIM on Facebook. It's always up there. And it's a reminder of what I think is 2 of the most powerful lessons back to back in the course. Lesson 101, I like the idea that he calls it lesson 101 and lesson 102. What you're looking at here is the review of both lessons together, which of course, I guess is lesson 116. But lesson 101 is God's will for me is perfect happiness. Now, that means as far as the creator of the universe is concerned, the creator only creates peace, happiness. I guess when you're peaceful, you're happy. And when you're happy, you're peaceful. Light, joy, open-mindedness, and the willing to share all of it, the willingness to share all of it. And the word willingness is my willingness to rise to who I truly am. Now, the funniest thing is if they just had lesson 101, you might say, well, that's God's will. I don't really feel that. Lesson 102 follows very closely and says, I share God's will for happiness for me too. So this is our natural state, meaning that this is what creation is. And when we started this evening, I said, you know, remember, no matter what's going on, there is a smile in all of us. That smile is always here. That peace, that joy, that light is always here. The mind that we think with, the one that stresses, strains, goes through anxiety, sometimes gets hurt, offended, feels less than, unworthy, that mind has nothing to do with God's creation. This is our natural state. The funniest thing is this actually absolves literally everything that we think about this world. Because the world itself, which he tells you, at least in my birthday lesson, there is no world. The world is simply an outside picture of an inner condition. So if I feel less than, if I feel a victim being at the effect of something outside of me, of course, that is the mind of the ego seeing things outside as more important than what's going on over here. So the whole idea of the ego mind is literally to distract us from what is, to accept what is. the isness is changeless. And I guess borrowing a little on Rosalyn, the eyes are constantly moving and changing and seeing differences, comparing one thing with another, what I like, what I don't like. And of course, that is the separation in my own mind, but I see it out there. I see it out there. And in truth, there is no out there. The out there is like coming to a good movie. You're sitting in the theater, you're watching the screen, like we're watching the screen now. And if you believe in the figures on the screen, then you get very involved and invested in what's going on the screen. But the screen is simply an outside projection of a inner condition. And if I'm feeling less than happy, if I'm feeling fearful, if I'm feeling unappreciated, feeling that somehow God doesn't love me, or I drew the wrong straw and I didn't like what it is that I wound up with, I'm going to see the world the same way. And of course, that's like a game of blame, shame, and guilt. And even though we talk about the people out there as being responsible, you know that we're really saying somehow God didn't do a good job. Somehow he missed the boat. The funniest thing is lesson 103, which follows 101 and 102 very closely, says God is but love, and therefore happiness too. So love and happiness are really one and the same. God is but love, and therefore so am I, which is today's review lesson. So it's like, as long as you think there's cruelty in the world, and that is today's review lesson, lesson 170, there is no cruelty in God and there's none in me. My willingness to let go of my story, and it's the ego's story, it's not my story, it's the story of what's going on that screen. Look at that, what they're doing over there, and if only he didn't do this, things would be much better. And if, and that's what the ego lives in. It lives in a world of ifs. I always like to say, if the way you spell life has an if in the center of it, you're still listening to the ego thought system. Well, if only this happened, and it could be better if that happened. But if life as you know it is God-centered, and God's will for me is perfect happiness, the happiness is not something I have to do or get. That is what I am. That is what I am. That's why the 4 words, I need do nothing, in this course, chapter 18, section 7, he says, these 4 words could save you a century of contemplation, meditation, doing, solving problems, which is exactly what the ego loves to do, because all of that takes time. What God creates is timeless. That part in the course where it says God takes the next step, when you actually get to the next step, when you actually get there, it says, wait a minute, God doesn't take steps. It's right now. It's instant. So in that crazy instant where we remembered not to laugh and we took things seriously, we actually believed that I got to do something in order to be more, be better, be different. And we still take it seriously until finally I realize that I really need do nothing to remember the truth of what I am, the truth of what I am. That kind of reminds me of what it is I know that Rosalyn wanted to speak a little about. And I think this is one of the great metaphors of all time. So with your permission, Cindy, if we can maybe.
Wait, Dov, let's just wait a second because I want to take off a little bit on your movie.
Okay, go ahead. Sure.
We take this this slide down, Cindy, please. Rupert Spira has a little bit of a different take, an amplification that I wanted to share with you on the movie. A lot of teachers over the years have talked about the movie and the screen and the projector, and I love the way Dov just talked about it. And I want to bring in the non-dual because I'm a lover of that. I've been a lover of that since 1995, but I kept it kind of separate from A Course in Miracles because the language was different. And I really didn't integrate it in myself, A Course in Miracles and the non-dual, until my daughter passed and I experienced the oneness. And then the words were no longer any difference. But I would love to add to what Dov just said about the movie, and I need do nothing. This tickled me what Rupert, I'm taking this from Rupert, and I can give you the reference if anybody wants it, because he does a good job. But think of the doer, the conditioned self, the I that you used to think of yourself as having a middle row seat in the movie theater. Now, all the stuff happens on the movie, and the person in the middle seat reacts to the movie as though it's happening, just like we do in our lives. As Dov says, it's an outward projection, and we react to our lives as though it's real. But in the back row is awareness with a capital A. And it is not, that's the oneness, in other words, for the oneness. And the oneness does not interact with the movie. It isn't changed by the movie. It doesn't sweat. It doesn't get scared. It doesn't laugh. It's just this friendly energy that's neutral. But since there's no suffering, it feels like open arms. It's very welcoming. But it with a local awareness notices, we know we're laughing with the movie. We know with local awareness that we're crying or we're scared, but we have that local awareness to tells us it's not real. We're watching a movie. So we don't take it to the next level like we do or have in the past with our lives, where we take it all to be the real deal, the real life, and then the movie is something else. So I love that delineation that we know we're in a movie. Now, Cindy, would you put up the tug of war? So this is the slide that Dov was referencing. And this can be our lives when we don't use awareness to break the spell of the movie. Now, local awareness says, oh, you're in it again, but local awareness can judge it. And then we're still in the tug of war. If we're judging what's happening or we're judging the doer. And you notice that there's nothing on the other end of this rope. And what's on the end? Let's just stop a second. And we're not going to ask you unless you want to share. But let's just be honest. For years, my weight was on the other end of the tug of war. You know, I was an obese child, and I struggled one way or another with weight. And it was kind of an inner Nazi. You could never have convinced me to let go of the rope. But what's on the other end of your rope? And human beings are storytellers. And when we're in the spiritual world, people say to us, well, that's your story, as though you shouldn't have one. I think that we miss the point when it's said that way, because what we want to do is take responsibility, as the Course says, with what the story is. We make meaning out of things and life, but we can have a oneness story that brings us causeless joy and freedom and expansion. Or we can have a story like I used to have, where I'm a body, and you can't convince me I'm not a body, and I need to make a better body, and everything depends on my body, or fill in the right job, or the right money, or the right partner, or the right work, or the right spiritual state, because we can do it with spirituality. But what if we just drop the rope? That's where we find that seat in the back of the movie that's always welcoming. Whenever we come back to it, it's the same. It's not rejecting. There's no doing that gets you there. It's there for free right now. There's no achievement that is required. And I'd like to identify what's on the other end of the rope and how easy it is to drop it, and there can't be a tug of war. And Dov, you like to add in that that's our whole story. The whole rope is our story. And if we look at that word story with kindness, we can expand the story. Look, I saw I was a body. I was separate. That story brought me misery. Now that I understand that life doesn't begin or end with the body, and just like Dov can be with his beautiful wife, I can be with my daughter, I can be with all those who left. And Karine has that story, and other people have that story, and it's a good story. And we're never going to stop having stories, and stories can be invigorating and inspiring and a soft place to fall, like a really nice bed. Or they can cause us pain and misery, like this being who's never let go of the rope. Thank you, Cindy, if you want to take it away. So Dov, back to you.
That's really great, and thank you so much for that rope story. Actually, the Course in Miracles speaks directly about that. It says, listen, do you want to be right, or do you want to be happy?
Absolutely.
Choose one. You can't have both. Now, the ego always digs its heels in and wants to be right. It does want more. It does want to be better. It wants to be special. It wants to be different. And that's what's always at the end of the rope. At the end of the rope could be anything, like I got to look better. I want to have better friends. I want. It's always something out there that I am trying to pull in. I mean, whether I'm fighting against someone on the other end, or I'm trying to get them to my side of the thing, either way, it's a choice. That the way I am as God created me, God's will for me is perfect happiness, is not good enough. It's not good enough. I want something more. And the word more is a very special word. Chapter 29, section 8 of the Course. The title of chapter 29, section 8 is called The Antichrist. And I want you to know I was one of the people that purposely didn't read that section because I didn't want to read about the Antichrist. But he starts off, he says, do you think you know what an idol is, an idol? He says, of course not, because the purpose of an idol is to be obscure so you don't even know you're worshiping it at the time. I mean, if you knew what you were worshiping as something false, you'd stop worshiping it. So after 2.5 pages, in the last paragraph, or the last 2 paragraphs, he tells you the idol that we worship is more.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I want more. So, whether you're pulling against somebody else or you're pulling in your catch of the day.
Mhm, yeah.
If a fisherman, it's my last name. He's always thinking, how many fish can I get? Jesus actually talks about that. He says, you're going to try to catch another fish. He actually uses that, and then he says, putting lipstick on a skeleton. What are you doing? What are you trying to do? Catch another fish? He uses that. So I mean, that's right in the Course of Miracles. So that rope is anything where we want more. To be happy, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? To be happy is simply to simply be. I mean, that's what he tells you in that lesson 189, paragraph 7. I feel the love of God within me now. What do you need to feel in a world where, how could you feel the love of God within you now? And then he gives you the answer. Simply do this, be still. And he's talking about stilling the mind, quieting the mind. Do not take with you one thought of what you are or one thought of what you think God is. Not one thought. Hold on to nothing that you ever learned from anything in this world. Nothing you ever thought was true or real or good or right. Let it all go. Hold on to nothing. And then he gives you the biggie. He says, forget this world. Forget this course. And that's how I realized that this course was not written by anybody in human form. Because nobody in human form would give you 1,300 pages and then tell you to forget it. Yeah, you can't take the Course in Miracles, which is a book of words, concepts, symbols, home. You are home. You don't need words and concepts. Concepts is not home. Home is the peace of God that passes all understanding. That's why the goal of the Course is peace. So thank you, Rosalyn, for that. Sir, does anyone have any thoughts or comment on the tug of rope? Or yes, Corinne.
Yeah, thank you for the talk on the more thing, because I think unconsciously I judge myself for not for not really getting the experience. Like even today, at the beginning, I could not really, like I'm feeling that I can't really have the experience of everything that you described, Rosalyn, but but I still get the result. I still get the, from the number, the high number to the low number. But it's like all the description, I'm trying to follow the description, I'm trying to experience it, I guess, and so I'm in a conflict right there, just trying to experience it. And I've noticed also, like I've been in groups with other people, and after a prayer or something, people would come and say they saw this or they heard that, and I haven't had any of those things at all. And I'm just wondering, maybe something, is wrong with me, which I realized that maybe it has something to do with unconsciously thinking that there must be more to it than what I'm receiving, which is nothing, yet which seems to be nothing, yet I'm still good. So I just wonder what you think about that. Maybe I'm just not a sensory type person. I don't know.
I think it's beautiful what you're saying, Karine, and I think you've opened a door by that word more that Dov was saying. And the judging, the tug of war might be about, I'm not getting it. Am I getting it? Am I not getting it? Am I getting it? Am I not getting it? Is it good enough? Is it what other people have? Back and forth, back and forth. And maybe the tug of war is trying. Maybe letting go would be just let me see what happens. And it's not going to be like anybody else's. That's the beautiful part, I think, of our localization of God. The localization of the oneness looks different. Look around the Zoom room. We're one, and yet each of us looks different. And so your experience is going to be different. And I don't think we can quantify the difference. But when we try, we're going to be in the tug of war. But it's easy to let go. Yes, Doug, please take me.
Definitely cannot quantify anything in this world. Quantity is always of the ego. Equality is always of spirit. So we are all equal, one and the same. That oneness, what is heaven, is simply an awareness of our perfect oneness. It is a oneness. I was just thinking, and I was talking to Victoria, I think earlier today, about the teaching of Laurie Coburn. I don't know if anyone here knows Laurie, but she's one of the regular teachers at ACIM gather every Monday at 12 noon. She teaches, and she brought up a very interesting topic, which I want to mention, which goes along with that movie screen that we were talking about. The idea that whenever you see anything out there that you think you want something more or something is better or different, and we're projecting that we don't have over here, that we lack what we see out there. So the ego is saying, yeah, you don't have what others have. You need to get more. And I don't care what more that is. It could be more money, more time, more success, whatever it is that you think will fulfill you. She says, those are our projections. Projection makes perception. And that's a 3-word sentence, comes at the very beginning of chapter 21. And I say, until you get to chapter 21, you haven't even started the course yet. Chapter 21 says, projection makes perception. The world you see is an outside picture of an inner condition. And then it goes on to say in chapter 21, section 2, I am responsible for everything that seems to happen to me. I have asked for it and I have received it exactly as I have asked. And then he says, deceive yourself no longer that you're helpless in face of what's done to you. Acknowledge that you have been mistaken and all effects of your mistakes will disappear. All effects of your mistakes will disappear. That's what forgiveness is. So what are we forgiving? Are we forgiving anything out there? No, there's nothing really out there to forgive. We're forgiving the projections. So this is what she says. She says, return the projection to your mind. I like to use an expression that they use in politics these days. Walk your projections back. You made a mistake. Walk your projections back. Take responsibility for them, because what they're showing you is that part of your thought system that needs healing. And that's basically what I used to do on Tuesday nights right here. It wasn't on Zoom, it was on a conference call. We used to ask people to bring the things that they had at the other end of the rope, the things that bother them, the things that disturb them, the things that took away their peace. And that's what the course does. It allows you to take a look that it's really not out there. It's not the blame, shame, and guilt of someone out there. It's something over here that the ego says is true about you, but you see it out there. That's the trick of the eye. These eyes see out there projection, where spirit's eye sees only the light. These eyes see the shadows, the 50 shades of gray, where as you bring it back to yourself and you say to Holy Spirit, I do not know what this is for. Please show me what this is for. And he tells you this in chapter 4, section 5. Ask of all things of this world, what is it for? Because you do not know. This is not your home. This is not your home. In this world, we work under the laws of the ego, which is the laws of chaos. And notice in lesson 76, you're saying, I'm under no laws but the laws of God. The laws of God is what I give to myself. So it isn't that I want to get rid of it, by blaming, shaming, and guilting someone out there, they should be punished when I'm really punishing myself. So uh, I'd like to ask if there's anyone here at this moment that has anything they have as a projection that they project out onto others they want to maybe mention, and something that we can walk back and see how that is something that they haven't been looking at within their own mind. Is there anyone at all? We usually do this on a conference call. And
John has his hand up.
go ahead, John.
So I still think like what you're saying is the seen as the seer, and I see things that I get feedback that's not very happy, and I don't know that it's I'm really conscious of the cause of it, but I can certainly say I still have projections on my mother for not giving me more love or enough love or all that kind of stuff, and so I would definitely say that would be a thing, because it. And it's not that I haven't been there or visited that, but
Yeah. Let me go a little deeper, John. When you say a projection on my mother, what is the projection?
that I'm not good enough, that I'm not.
Oh, I see.
Or that that,
Okay, very good. Okay, very good. I am not good enough. That's wonderful. So the only part of us that thinks that is the ego.
Yeah.
The ego doesn't think that you're good enough, because after all, if you were good enough, you wouldn't be a body that was born to die. So the ego says, don't worry about it. I'll take care of you from the cradle to the grave, and sees that somehow you're separate from God. I mean, ego doesn't know what God is, but somehow you're like everybody else, and you're just not good enough. But somehow your mother played the perfect part in Course in Miracles terms. She was your savior. And no matter what it is that she said to you, no matter what it is that she did, no matter what it is that somehow you interpreted, she gave you an opportunity to come to this particular place and see that that is something that you've been believing in as a belief. And you know my feelings about the word belief. It's a belief. Yet, if you go to page 54 in the textbook, in paragraph 5, it's down at the bottom of the page. He says, your worth is not established by anything in this world, not by your teaching, your learning, your doing. Your worth is established by God before you ever came here. So in this world, yes, you will be told that, well, I'm not as good as, and we believe that with a big lie right in the center. So forgiveness is a denial of that denial of truth. In the last unanswered question, he says, can't you see that all of your misery comes from your strange belief that you are powerless? And I always say he's laughing. Mm-hmm. How could you be powerless? You're the son of God. And then he tells you how to undo that. Down around paragraph 4, he says, listen, are you willing? Are you willing? And willingness is really everything in this course. Willingness is, I'm going to transcend my belief system. Are you willing to see what you denied because you have denied the truth? You denied the truth. Now that you know that you have denied the truth, do you know what the antidote is? Do you know what the remedy is?
Live the truth. Know the truth.
Now that you have denied the truth, negate the denial by denying the denial. And the easy word for denying the denial is forgiveness. Forgiveness denies the denial of truth. So what you're doing is you're looking at that projection out there. You're walking it back, and you're looking at it. And instead of applying it to my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, my first grade teacher, you say, wait a minute. Yeah, this is what I believe to be true. How do I undo it? You take that thought and you literally apply forgiveness. And what does forgiveness do? Can anyone tell me what forgiveness does? It looks and does nothing, because if forgiveness did anything, would make it real. In this world, we think the ego thoughts are real. Holy Spirit looks, smiles, and laughs, knowing that who you are is the holy, innocent, complete, perfect, sinless Son of God. If you do anything with the thought, I coulda, shoulda, woulda been, that's the ego trying to enhance. No, you can't enhance a lie. All you can do is deny the lie by literally letting it go. Forgiveness simply lets it go. I hope that's helpful, John. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually, I'm blown away, Dov. Thank you very much. I don't know what to say. This is my lucky day, and I'm very happy. So that's where we started. That's where I am right now. Maybe it's just gelling for me. Yeah, I know this is my stuff, but this is my stuff. But now it has a new level to it. So thank you, and
Very good.
Thank you, Ross.
Okay, thank you, John, for even sharing that with us to give everybody a chance. I just want to say, Paul just said I'm signed into John's meeting, John Monday, who is my partner at One Mind Foundation. The reason we only have 1 hour is that he starts at 8 o'clock, and I didn't want to interfere with it. So I'm just going to mention that we are One Mind Foundation. Actually, John's part of the One Mind, and if you like to make any kind of donation at all, it's just a donation. You go to onemindfoundation.org, and there is a donate button down at the bottom of the page. And anything that you do contribute, half does go to Rosalyn. She is my mighty companion on this 7 o'clock meeting, and it's appreciated. And we hope to see all of you. And please do invite your friends. This is a regular 7 o'clock from 7 to 8. I cut it off at 8 because I know John's comes on at 8. And thanking all for being here. Thank you so much, Rosalyn, Cindy, for being our Zoom master, giving everybody love and kisses. Thank you so much.
And I'd really like to just take a second and I'll honor Dov and his years with the course. And he's a walking, brilliant encyclopedia that has inhabited the teachings. And we're so blessed that he's willing to share with all of us, and just take that moment to honor you, Dov. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.